I was 10 years old when I first understood what family truly meant. Not just the people you live with, but the ones who shape your heart, share your tears, and smile with you even when life isn't kind. Our house wasn't big, a small white painted cottage on a quiet street in the town of Meadowville. But inside those walls lived the people who meant everything to me. My parents, my grandmother, my younger sister Amina, and me, Zion. My father, Mr. Rafik Ahmed, was a school teacher, strict but kind. He wore glasses that always slid down his nose when he read. He loved books more than anything, except maybe us. My mother, Mrs. Nazia Rafik, was warmth itself. Her laugh filled every corner of the house. She cooked the most delicious meals and could tell how you were feeling just by looking at your eyes. Then there was my grandmother, Dottie. She was old and wise, always holding her tasbih and telling stories of her youth in the village. We loved her more than words could say. And Amina, my little tornado of energy. She was 6, full of questions, and never stopped talking. But she was the heart of our family, always bringing smiles. One Sunday morning, something unusual happened. Father received a letter. He read it quietly, then looked up at all of us sitting around the breakfast table. "We may be moving soon," he said. Everything paused. "Why?" Daddy asked. Packing was harder than we thought. Every item we placed in a box carried memories. A toy, an old photo frame, Dottie's collection of teacups, or Mother's spice jars. Even Amina grew quiet for once, holding tightly to her stuffed bear, Muffin. The day we left Meadowville, the sky was gray. It felt like the town itself was saying goodbye. Our new home was in a busy city called Gulfton. Loud streets, tall buildings, and unfamiliar faces. It was nothing like the peaceful life we had left behind. The house was larger, but colder. Not because of the weather, but because it lacked the warmth of memories. The walls were bare. The kitchen didn't smell like Mother's cooking yet. Even Dottie seemed smaller, quieter as she stared out the window at the city. Father started his new job at the city school. He worked longer hours now. Mother tried to stay strong, but I often saw her wiping away silent tears when she thought no one was watching. Amina didn't understand what was happening. She missed her friends, her old room, even the garden we had. "When are we going back?" she asked every night. I had started school too, but it was hard to fit in. The students were different. No one knew who I was. I missed my old friends, the games we played, and the feeling of belonging. One evening, I found Dottie in the living room, setting up her tasbih in an old radio. "This house doesn't feel like ours," I said. She smiled softly. "Because we haven't put love in it yet. A house becomes a home with people, not walls." That night, we all sat together for dinner for the first time since moving. Mother made biryani. Father told us about his day, and Amina giggled over a silly drawing she made. Dottie even told us a story from her village days. For the first time since arriving in Gulfton, it felt like home. Not because the city welcomed us, but because we brought our love with us. It's a new opportunity, a better school, more income. That moment changed everything. And so began our family's journey, not just to a new place, but toward discovering what really keeps a family together when everything else begins to change. As days passed, we began adjusting to city life. The routines became familiar. Father left early for school. Mother resumed baking and sewing. Amina started first grade and made friends quickly. Even I was beginning to find my place. But there was still one mystery, our next-door neighbor. We often saw her from our window, an elderly woman with silver hair neatly tied in a bun, wearing a long gray sweater, watering her plants. She never smiled, never waved. Some kids in the neighborhood whispered that she was a witch. Amina believed it instantly and peeked at her through the curtains like she was watching a horror movie. One afternoon, Amina accidentally kicked her football over the fence into her yard. "Oh no, I'm not going to get it," she panicked. "Then you won't have it back," I said, teasing her. But seeing her little face drop, I decided to be brave. I walked over, opened the small gate between our homes, and rang the bell. After a few seconds, the door creaked open. "Yes," she said, peering over her glasses. I'm Zion. My sister's ball went into your yard. I was wondering if I could take it back." She stared at me. Then, to my surprise, she opened the door fully and stepped aside. "Come in." Her home was nothing like I expected. It was cozy, warm, and smelled like cinnamon and books. There were shelves filled with novels, and on the wall, pictures of her with people, smiling, happy. "The ball's in the backyard," she said, walking slowly toward the back door. As I followed, I noticed a small photo on a side table. It showed a young boy, about my age, with a gentle smile. "That's my grandson," she said softly, noticing my glance. "He passed away 2 years ago." I didn't know what to say. She looked at me and smiled faintly for the first time. "You remind me of him." I picked up the ball and hesitated. "Would you like to come over for tea sometime? My daddy makes the best tea." She smiled again, this time a little wider. "I'd like that." When I returned, Amina was still hiding behind the curtain. "She didn't turn me into a frog," I joked. From that day on, Mrs. Henderson became a part of our life. She joined us for tea, shared stories, and even taught Amina how to knit. The lonely woman next door was lonely no more. And our family? It grew not by blood, but by kindness. Life began to settle into a comforting rhythm. Mrs. Henderson became like a second grandmother to Amina. She and Dottie often sat together, sharing stories over chai. Our house, once unfamiliar, now echoed with laughter again. But life has its own way of testing the strength of even the closest families. It began on a Friday evening. Dark clouds had gathered all day, but no one expected what came next. By midnight, the wind howled like a wild beast. Rain slammed against the windows. The lights flickered. Then, darkness. Amina woke up crying, scared. Duddy was reciting quietly from the Quran, her voice calm like the eye of the storm. Father lit candles while Mother gathered blankets. I held Amina close, whispering stories to distract her. Suddenly, there was a loud crash. A tree had fallen just outside, hitting the fence between our house and Mrs. Henderson's. "Is she okay?" I asked. "I'll check," Father said, grabbing a flashlight. I couldn't let him go alone. "I'll come with you." The wind pushed against us as we stepped outside. The fence was damaged, branches everywhere. We knocked on Mrs. Henderson's door. No answer. Father pushed the door. It wasn't locked. We found her sitting in the dark, wrapped in a shawl, shivering. "My power's out," she said weakly, and I fell when the tree hit. I couldn't get up. Without hesitation, Father picked her up in his arms. "Let's get you home." That night, our living room became a shelter. Mrs. Henderson lay on the couch, wrapped in Dottie's quilt. Mother served hot soup. Amina brought her teddy bear and insisted Mrs. Henderson keep it until she felt better. The storm raged outside, but inside our home, there was warmth, unity. When the sun rose, the world looked broken. Trees were down, roads were flooded, but we were all safe, together. The storm had tested us, but it also reminded us of something important. A family isn't just who you're born to. It's who stands beside you in the darkest hour. The days after the storm were filled with cleanup. Volunteers came to help. Neighbors shared food, and slowly the town began to heal. Mrs. Henderson recovered quickly, thanks to Dottie's remedies and Amina's endless storytelling. One afternoon, as I was helping clean the attic, I stumbled upon an old wooden box covered in dust. Curious, I brought it down and placed it on the kitchen table. "What's that?" Amina asked, peering over my shoulder. "It was your Nana's," Mother said, wiping her hands and opening the lid gently. Inside were old photographs, yellowed letters, medals, and a leather-bound journal. Dottie's eyes widened as she saw the contents. "This was your Nana's life during the war," she said softly. We spent hours going through the items. One letter, folded neatly in an envelope, caught my attention. It was addressed to "My beloved Nazia, Mother." Mother opened it slowly, her hands trembling. Her eyes filled with tears as she read, "My dearest daughter, if you are reading this, it means you've grown into the strong woman I always dreamed of. I may not be there to guide you, but I hope you carry my values in your heart. Take care of your family, protect them, and always be kind, even when the world isn't. Love is what builds nations. Start with your home. Love. Abba." Mother pressed the letter to her heart. "That's your Nana," she whispered. "He never returned from duty, but he left behind this strength, this legacy." That evening, our home felt different, heavier, deeper. We were no longer just a family living in a city. We were the result of generations of love, sacrifice, and dreams. Inspired by the letter, Amina drew a picture of our family. Stick figures, big smiles, holding hands under a rainbow. At the bottom, she wrote in crooked handwriting, "Together is our favorite place to be." We framed it and hung it in the hallway. That day, we didn't just remember the past. We embraced it. And in doing so, we understood more about who we were and who we wanted to be.